Hey guys, it's Kira here, and today I'm going to be talking with Dr. Sharon Jones.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I heard that you're a founder of a couple things. Can you tell me what those are, please?
Absolutely. So I am the founder of a nonprofit called Foundation, where we support girls in computer science. The organization is named in honor of my grandmother, Dorothy Rose, and it was really fitting to name it that way because I am super girly, but I also love to work with computers, and there's a dot in everything that has to do with computer programming. So it felt like a really good fit. But we support girls, and we relate real world applications and things that we like as a female persona to computer science. And then I also run a consulting company called The Dot, and hence you see that there's a theme there. And The Dot supports middle and high schools as they integrate STEM and computer science into their curriculum. So I do a lot of professional development with teachers, and I do curriculum development and a lot of coaching to say, this is how we can integrate computer science and science, computer science and math all together. And so it's a lot of fun.
Wow, that's the resume. Have you always wanted to work in computer science, or was there some other job you wanted to be before you chose it?
So I'll tell you, I wanted to be Oprah when I was young. So no, I did not always want to be in computer science. I was really intrigued by communications, television, radio for the better part of my childhood career. I even had my name as Sharon with the loop underneath because I thought I was going to be Oprah. And when I was in high school, I used to have a double-deck jam box that I would record, and I was DJ Sharky Sharon. So I went into school thinking that I was going to be a radio DJ. And I learned really quickly that as much as I loved that piece, the way in which the radio industry was set up at the time, which was about 18 years ago now, was not something I was really wanted to do. And I kept finding myself going back to education. And I ended up finding my niche in learning about technology and computer science as I was earning my teaching degree.
I did not expect that. I thought you were going to say like biologist or like something like, wow.
Yeah, no, I always had a microphone in my hand. I was a shy kid. I mean, I know I was pretty vocal in my household, and I loved drama, but in general, I was I was a bit shy in school. So going behind the microphone was my way of expressing my voice. And so in my bedroom with my double jam box, I would record my shows and do the ramp up from the radio, looking back on that, that's really a part of computer science. I know we're going to talk a little bit about this, but computer science is a really cool field, and it is the study of what computers can do. And so even though I was working on a boom box or a jam box then, much of what I learned then, I'm using now as I'm using audio engineering on the computer, because I had to learn to stop and go and know the event, which an event is a big part of computer science, and in terms of creating the show that on a boom box that now I can do on a computer.
Can you tell me a bit more about the Dotty Rose? Is there like, you told me a bit about it already, but is there more to it that than just like teaching? Do you do like workshops or can you tell me a bit about that?
Absolutely. So with the foundation, what our focus is to provide a space for learning for young ladies. One of the pieces that I noticed a lot, I am a computer science educator. So when I went to college, when I decided to go into teaching, and I found my love of working with computers and playing around with understanding the power of the tool that a computer is and all that the pieces that come into play. Over the years, I realized in my classes there were not a lot of young ladies. There's a overarching umbrella around computer science that it's a male-dominated field and that it's boring. And actually, it's further from the truth. The piece about computer science is so compelling is that it encompasses so many things. I mean, it literally is the study of what a computer can do. So you can find your way in computer science in any form. You don't just have to be a programmer. That's just one piece. There's a lot of different elements. So what we do in the foundation is show that if you want to be a photographer, if you want to be a fashion designer, if you want to develop websites, if you want to be a designer and build and do anything with design or art, that all of those elements play into what is computer science. So in particular, a good example is we have workshops and camps, and one of our camps this summer that we're going to be doing is a fashion camp. Do you like fashion? Do you like clothes, jewelry? Do you like?
Well, I'm more into like I'm actually into photography a little bit. I'm not really into the fashion side of it as much.
Okay, well, let's talk about photography because photography is super awesome sauce, right? So with photography, one of the things that's really important to understand is the way in which a picture is taken. You have to understand the lighting. You have to understand the positioning. You have to understand who you are, what is the purpose of the photo. Like if you're really trying to get a statement piece, right? Those same processes that you go into organizing your photo and the technology behind making cameras have a better lens, making cameras take a better picture, all of that back stuff is the computer science. It's someone developing that software to make your camera take a better picture, right? But then just the taking the picture part, there's actually, you have a process that you want to do in order to take a really good picture. Well, the same thing happens when you're developing software. There has to be a who, what, when, why, and how. Because if you don't develop an app or a software that somebody wants to use, then why develop it? Just like you want to take a picture that people are going to love, right? And you can learn about the art of photography, and there's so much mathematics that's involved in creating the lighting and the shading and the positioning that's really neat. So we actually are going to be doing, I'm glad you mentioned that, we're having actually a digital lens camp this summer for the foundation, and it's going to be online. So anybody can join because of all the things that are happening. So it's going to be online, and you're going to learn how to take a great picture, then create a video, edit that video, produce it, and then understand the algorithm behind posting it on social media. So do you like use TikTok or any of those things?
No, I do use a couple of photo editing software, but and video editing. I'm not really into TikTok as much as some other kids are.
Yeah, me neither. But there are TikTok and there's Instagram. But in terms of people getting it, there is an entire career in creating brand and design and marketing with photo and video, and understanding how people are going to watch that video, and understanding those algorithms behind they get pushed up in the feeds like LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram is a computer science job. And it's just problem solving. Who's going to like what and how are they going to like it? Will they like this picture? Will they not like this picture?
I did not realize there were so many sides to computer science. When I think of it, I just think of like programmers, and that's about it.
Well, that's meant because that's a lot of what you see. But when you think, I want you to think about this. Okay, is there an app that you like a lot? Is there something or a website that you go to that you really like?
I like using Snapseed, that's a photo editor app, and I like going to Fandom, that's a website for like all sorts of fan fiction and stuff. So.
Awesome. Okay, so I want you to think about this. When someone gets ready to develop a new application, an app, or a new website, what do you think they think about?
Well, first of all, they have to think out what the app or website is about.
Yep.
What they want to show, what it can actually do.
Correct.
Then they'd also have to think about how people are going to approach it. Just like
Correct.
What it looks like in like is it really easy to get into the different parts of the apps or the websites? Do you have to go into one thing to get into another thing? Something that I find, if I want to download a new app, I often go for the ones that look a bit more colorful. So that's another part of it. I didn't realize there's so many different parts to that.
You're nailing it. So all those things. So first of all, you just went through the entire computational thinking process of telling me about what you think what you like about a website or an application, right? So what I mean by that is you said you like for it to be easy to access. You want it to have good structure. So you want to be able to find things easily, right? That is what we call a conditional statement, an if-then statement. So if I click here, then it's going to go to this page. And it has to have a very logical hierarchy and method. The other piece that you mentioned that makes my heart happy is you talked about the design and the color. That is huge. It is huge. And that's one of the biggest parts of computer science, is what we call user interface or user design. It's called UX, UI, user interface, user design, or user experience, excuse me. UX is user experience. And the thing is that if you love all of that, you can create a magical application or website with the design that brings people to your project. And that is an entire part of computer science, because you want to make sure that design, that project management and all that piece, because let's say, for instance, that you want to develop an app for your website that you have right now. You want to make it as attractive and exciting for people to come to so that they want to stay, right?
Yeah.
Yep. You're applying the scientific method.
Sorry, just right now I'm just pitying the people who made Google, because it's like they had to make, because so many apps and websites had to go into, they're like, okay, so this person might want to make a website, so we're going to have to make it accessible to that one. And this person might want to make a website, so we have to make it accessible to that one. And in that website, we have to let links go in. And in that website that the link leads to, maybe there's more links, and we have to make that accessible.
You got it.
I'm just pitying the people who make Google right now. That must have been so difficult.
So let me tell you about that. That piece, you're exactly right. It is difficult, but what's kind of neat about what Google does, and I appreciate this about them, is they try lots of different things. So they'll put something out. It may or may not work. It's kind of a trial and error basis, because sometimes you don't know whether it's going to work or people are going to like it. So I like that they try things, and then if it doesn't work, they're like, okay, let's try this. We're going to try again. It's not always the perfect the first time they put it out. And I think that's another key element of computer science, is the problem solving piece, and understanding that it may not be perfect the first time you put it out. And that's okay.
So like trial and error, trial and error, trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, listen, girl, you have got this. You love science, right? You love science? Okay. So that's science and computer science, hence the word science being in the name, are very similar, because science is all about experimenting and trying new pieces, right? And understanding how elements and different things come together to make something new. The same thing happens in computer science. You're just using a computer. That's it. That's it.
Whoa.
Same thing, except you're just figuring out the parts of the computer. And in terms of learning a programming language, what I always tell young people is that if you've learned to write in English or in Spanish, or if you can write a good sentence in English or in any other language, then you can write a line of code. Writing a line of code is just the language for the computer. It's no different than writing the sentence for the hypothesis for a science experiment. It's just taking that skill set and putting it in on a computer.
Something I've kind of wanted to ask. You
Yeah.
know apps like Scratch or Tinker. Well, it's just like you click something, you drag it across.
Mhm.
Is it like that in actual programming? Is it just like you're like, okay, do you actually have to like? I know this is probably a silly question, but like,
It's not a silly
is
question.
it much different to how they do it in those apps that kids can use for coding?
It is a little bit different, but so what they've done in the apps that what you were speaking of with Tinker and with Scratch is they've created something called block coding. So essentially what's happened is on the back end is the actual writing of the code. So literally writing in something like JavaScript or HTML, there is words. It is a language. Like you type in IMG, which stands for image, SRC, which stands for source, and then you would find your image and put that in. But so on the back end of any of those languages is the core of JavaScript, or with Tinker is the 3D programming language. But what they've done is put an image or a block over that code, so it makes it easier for you to learn. So it is a bit different because the block coding is wonderful for teaching you how to think through the computational thinking process and understand that the computer understands nothing. Nada. And you have to tell it everything you want it to do, which, by the way, is rather empowering for me. I like to tell the computer what to do, right? So, but the block code, but you are actually doing programming on the back and you just don't always see it.
So like the language of computers is the one and the O's, what's that called? Just like the
binary code.
Binary.
Uh-huh.
I knew it had something to do with linking. Do you ever do any of that?
Oh yeah, that's initially what we'll teach. We teach what binary code is, because really the computer is, again, a machine, and the only language it actually understands is zeros and ones. On, off, yes, no. So you think about a computer, it's either on or it's off.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. Okay. So what happens is we have processors or chips in our computer that help to convert those zeros and ones into something that we can understand as a human. But on the back end, like if we were to write the number 13, we would write that number based on bits and bytes of binary code. So for instance, there are 64 bits in a particular processor. And we would take that information and we would take the zeros and ones and convert that number 13 into zeros and ones.
Okay, so moving a bit away from what we've been talking about, as interesting as that was, I just want to ask, you've done so many different things. Like you've done the Dolly Rose one and the dot. What was the best day in your career?
Oh, wow. Man, that is, I hear the washing machine going in the background. That's exciting. This story of our lives of COVID, of being in this, I just realized that, man, that thing is really loud. Okay. Best day of my career. Holy moly. That is a big one. I think that, okay, well, I want to say the best day is probably still yet to come. There have been a lot of wonderful moments over the course of my career as an educator. The best moments are when a young person comes back and says, thank you for showing me something that I didn't know. And I have quite a few young women who I had the privilege of still being able to work with. They were students of mine and now they're in the tech field. And they come back and help me with my foundation and with my consulting work and simply just give me new pieces of information because I don't know all the new tech, right? So new things come out. I'm like, wait a minute, like even TikTok was like, how do I use that thing? Or new, like you said, you have editing tools that I don't even know exist, right? So they keep me up to date on the hip of things that are going on. But I think the one of the most pivotal moments for me in my career is I've been a teacher for most of my life. I taught in high school And then I taught in secondary at a community college here. But the big thing was I left my full-time job almost 2.5 years ago and jumped full-time into running the foundation and the nonprofit and my consulting business. And that was really exciting because I knew I was ready to make a change and ready to really drive the conversation around having more young women and girls in the field of technology and computer science and giving them the tool set that they can use to really thrive. So that was in August of 2018.
Actually, something I haven't asked you about.
Okay.
I was just like thinking about it and then I was like, oh no, I haven't asked that yet.
Yeah.
The Lady Charmers.
Oh, the
Tell me a bit
podcast.
about that.
Okay, so, and I'm going to come back to the career piece. The reason why it's hard is that there's been a lot of different milestones in my career. And as you grow and you change, and you're 12 now, right?
Yes.
Are you 12? Yes, okay. So there's a lot of things that are going to change between now when you're 12 to when you're 20, right? So for me, there's been a lot of really great highlights and different accomplishments that I have had. I mean, one big perk in my career was when I completed my doctoral degree, and I was one of the youngest in my class to complete it, and I did it ahead.
Oh.
I started late and finished early. So I was really proud of myself on that before I had my first baby, because I was 6 months pregnant when I walked across the stage for my doctoral degree. And so my son, Ethan, is now 9. So that's kind of exciting. But okay, so Lady Tech Charmers, let me tell you a little bit about that. So, I told you that when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be a DJ Sharky Sharon, right? So when I was doing that, and I went and interned in college, and I was doing communications as my major, and I mentioned that I didn't love the landscape of the way the radio, and there's nothing against it. It was not my fit. Like there was a lot of downtime, and I like to move and groove all the time, right? So I didn't like that. So this wonderful, because of computer science, this wonderful niche or field of radio came to be called podcasting, which has been around for a long time, but it became much more accessible through the development of software and apps for many people to have access to podcasting. And what a podcast is, which you probably have heard, is simply a radio show, but on demand. So Lady Tech Charmers came to be with two other amazing women that are in technology, Caitlin Cass-Stevens and Paula Okone. And each of us came from a different perspective of technology, and we created our own radio show, but made it a podcast. And so we're able to record as we need, release when we need, but I still get to be behind the microphone, but just in a different way, right? So that was so I would say that's also a cool career moment, because it was like full circle for me, because I never really thought I'd go back to I didn't think I'd actually ever be in the radio industry. I always loved it. But the podcast allowed me to do that. So we record, like we recorded yesterday, and then we'll release an episode. We usually try to release one every week.
Okay, well, we have been filming for a long time, so I think that we should stop now before we go on talking all night.
Well, we could. I mean, we could talk all day.
So, last thing before I have to say goodbye.
Yes.
How will people find you and the Daddy Rose and the Dot? How can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. So let's start with this. The foundation, the Dottie Rose Foundation, is dottierosefoundation.org or at Dottie Rose Foundation, spelled DOTTIE, Rose. And then for the consulting business, it's the THEDOT consulting.co, C-O. And you can find all the work that I do there, working with educators, helping to integrate. And for the foundation, we've got tons of summer camps going on. And like I said, there is the digital online component, component with the photography and video, which we are going to be creating a really cool social media plan and platform for another online program, which is going to be awesome. And then for Lady Tech Charmers, it's ladytechcharmers.com for the podcast. And then you can find us on all of the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, with Lady Tech Charmers, TECH. And so, yeah, and I mean, the online, you're mostly going to see me with the foundation because that's my heart and love and mission and things. The consulting business is how I actually bring in income for my family, but I don't advertise that as much. I do a lot of, but I would love to talk to anybody about how to help their educators do more with computer science and talk about how we can integrate it into math, English, and all the other components.
Okay, well, thanks for talking to me today. Thanks for talking to me today, Sharon.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. You're a wonderful young woman, and I'm so excited to see your journey that you're doing on following science and learning more about where you might want to find your road. You love photography and you like editing and you like science. I mean, think about all the cool things you could do with photography and astrology and
astronomy, not astrology.
You like astronomy, not astrology. Astrology, the study of the stars. You like astronomy. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Okay. Thanks for talking to me too, Sharon. Bye.
Bye.